Hello, Giants fans. Welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. You can see that I have my light on again today. Couldn't keep up last night's morning party forever, but we are going to pick up where we left off last night. So, welcome to part 2 of the funeral service for the San Francisco Giants 2023 season. The Giants lost to the Dodgers 3-2 today, and you could say that all year, one of the few things that was going right for the Giants was the fact that they always seemed to be able to win in extra inning games, and that was a total turnaround from just what it was before, where they essentially never did. But this year it was a strength for them. That automatic runner, they used it to their advantage and were able to play leveraged baseball, and that obviously included good pitching there as well as just good situational hitting and the ability to get the bat on the ball. But that was not the case today against the Dodgers. They had a chance, and we're going to get to this. They missed multiple really good scoring opportunities. It was a chance to even up the series against the Dodgers today, and maybe to give themselves a last smidgen of a chance to get into the postseason, but they didn't do it. It was basically a bullpen day, and they got behind 2-0, but Lamont Wade Jr. homered to tie the game at 2. It was either in the 6th or 7th inning, I believe. I can't remember exactly where. They had a runner on second and 2 outs, and Mike Yastrzemski was coming to the plate facing a lefty. But what we saw there was just Gabe Kapler is really going with a full-on platoon strategy because, I mean, he pinch hit for Yaz with Mitch Haniger, despite the fact that Yaz had a 798 OPS, while Haniger, his OPS was only 637. So if you calculate that, that's a 161-point difference between the two, and yet Kapler opted to go with the hand advantage. And that might be a little bit excessive, but I mean, at least he has a feel for a platoon strategy. But I mean, still, like with the big difference there, I mean, I would honestly think it preferable in such a situation to just let Yaz swing, since he has such better overall statistics. And that's not the first time in these recent times when I've seen Kapler make a decision like that. It's something questionable, definitely. The Dodgers countered right there by bringing in a righty. At that point, I think Kapler went wrong again. He let Haniger hit for himself against the righty, which I already forget who he was, by the way. And yet Patrick Bailey, the switch hitter, was just sitting there on the bench. I mean, that would have been a time, and it was a scoring opportunity too. Now, Bailey has an OPS this year of under 700, so it's not like he's been exactly everything that we'd hoped for from him, but he's had some really good moments. And if you're just talking platoon advantage there, it probably would have been the time. Yeah, you would have had to burn another bench player, but I mean, we have the universal DH. What are these bench players being actually saved in reserve for? It would have been the ideal time there to pencil in Patrick Bailey to pinch hit for Haniger and just say Haniger's out of the game. He doesn't get an at-bat, doesn't play an out in the field or anything. I think I just can't see that strategy here. You go with the platoon advantage when there's a huge OPS difference, when Yastrzemski would be the best general hitter if you're just saying overall, like whatever that means. You go with that, and yet then when the Dodgers like basically negate that by bringing in a righty pitcher, you don't do anything. I just can't see that strategy there as justifiable. And of course they didn't score in that inning. I just don't see what's going on. If the platoon advantage is that important, I would think that bringing Patrick Bailey in to pinch hit and hit left-handed would have been the thing to do. And I just, maybe Kepler just wasn't thinking deeply enough, but it just didn't happen. That wasn't the only time he could have pinch hit for Haniger with Bailey. The Giants loaded the bases again in the top of the ninth inning after Luke Jackson worked his way through the seventh, and then I think he also stayed in to pitch the eighth. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in a comment. But the Giants, they loaded the bases in the ninth with 2 outs, and Haniger came to the plate, and he hit again. That was another opportunity to at least get a lefty to the plate by bringing Patrick Bailey up. He could switch hit. I just think that it's not excusing the hitter's performance overall, but maybe that's part of what contributed to missing out on the opportunities. We'll never know what would have happened, but however it is, and for multiple reasons, the Giants missed out on multiple opportunities to score in this game, and that is not good. The bottom of the ninth, Tyler Rogers came in to pitch, and he held the Dodgers from a walk-off, and the Giants got into the top of the 10th with the automatic runner on base, and yet they couldn't score. And then Camilo Doval came in the bottom of the 10th, and he, after getting an out that sent the automatic runner to third, he allowed a single to Chris Taylor that walked it off for the Dodgers. And Doval, although he was an all-star this year, I have to say, this kind of applies to last year too. He has just not been good enough when it matters the most. I mean, in a sense, he's probably a really good option as far as just taking the pool of a lot of pitchers in baseball out there. Hard thrower, can throw up to 100 miles an hour. And, I mean, there's that, and the fact that he pitches really well when he's at his best, but he just wasn't his best this year in situations where the Giants needed him most. That's been an issue, not having Doval perform when he needs to perform. And honestly, that's part of what makes a good ball player. And I think Doval has just not been everything that he could be for the Giants. So they lost this game, and they lost the series against the Dodgers. And I don't even need to say it. We all know what that means. But we're just, yesterday, I really just made a list of the free agents the Giants signed and just how little they contributed to even just wins above replacement. Now I'm going to do something that's kind of similar but kind of different. I'm going to make some comparisons between the guys the Giants actually used and who they could have signed and where I think they might be right now. We're going to use the same number. We're going to use WAR, wins above replacement. All right, I have to look at my notes here, but let's go through the list. So Aaron Judge, the Giants apparently found too expensive, and they were offering essentially the same deal as the Yankees were offering. Now, it doesn't surprise me that Judge chose to stay in New York. 9 years and $360 million is a ton of money, but what determines? There's only one thing that determines what's fair play for a ball player. That's the market. That's how bad he's needed. That's for a free agent. For a non-free agent, you got arbitration and stuff like that. But for a free agent, there's only one thing that determines fair pay. There's only one thing that determines how much your guy's worth. That's how bad teams need them. Do you see now how badly the Giants needed Aaron Judge this year? A few things could have made all the difference. What number did he actually put up with the Yankees in terms of WAR? That would be 4.8. His position is right fielder, and Michael Conforto was a right fielder for the Giants. I think he was a little bit versatile, but I have to keep this simple. Michael Conforto's WAR was 1.3. What does that bring us to? We'll just, and I will just say, if I take Conforto out, I'm being really nice. I mean, you could have had them both and maybe take Slater, who only posted 0.7 out, but I mean, at the end of the day, they probably wouldn't have signed Conforto had they signed Judge. I think that's what would happen. So it's it's actually, I mean, now that I think about it, yeah, it's fair to just subtract Conforto's WAR and see what we come to. That's going to be 3.5. So what we're essentially saying, I understand I might be oversimplifying this a little bit, but it's still a great point. So that in itself, had the Giants sign Aaron Judge, likely to be 3.5 extra wins. Now, I know you couldn't have half a win in reality, but just take that as a mathematical number for right now, and we aren't quite done yet. What about having Carlos Correa as shortstop? Now, he did not have as good of a season as like we expected him to, but he certainly had a better season than Brandon Crawford. Let's say Correa had been the starting shortstop. Crawford's WAR was 0.6. Correa's was 1.1. So that would add us another half a win. We're getting to like 4 wins here. And then you say, but what about having to give him rest time? I understand, and we have to allow for a bit of that, but how much difference would it honestly have made? We still, I would say we still have the essential here of about 4 wins. By the way, there were other good shortstops on the free agent market. That was one thing that was in a lot of abundance. Why the Giants couldn't land one, I don't know. By the way, Trey Turner had 3. I'm saying 3 point something WAR. I won't add to the Giants' humiliation too much by like calculating in front of you all what that would be. Let's just say I think this is fair. I think this averages things out pretty well to say that is probably about another 4 wins added. Start thinking about this in your mind. Where would the Giants be if they could have added 4 wins from the point, like, where would they be right now? And I haven't even gotten to the pitching. Let me just ask a question. Isn't it fair to say, I'm not planning to go over names on this because I don't know that it's necessary right now. Is it fair to say that the Giants could have added maybe 2 points of WAR by signing better pitchers, by really being more aggressive there, by making it a priority? Is it fair? The answer's got to be yes. I mean, it's got to be. And I'm being really, to say just 2 extra wins above replacement by pitching, whether you're talking adding another starter to the rotation besides Ross Stripling, and yeah, even Sean Manaea, because his performance overall just wasn't, it wasn't like what we could have hoped for. It's definitely reasonable in my mind. It's not even a question. It's reasonable to say they could have added, and I'm being really nice here. I'll just say that they could have added 2.0 in WAR by maybe improving the bullpen a little bit better, adding another starter, just doing something along the lines of pitching that would have made things more promising. Could they have added 2 wins? I think so. That brings us up to 6.0. I understand not everybody's going to do this calculation the same way, but I think this is fairly reasonable. And just think about it. Just think. They were kind of, the Giants are kind of on the fringes of contention. We can clearly see that they're like out of it all. They're kind of on the fringes, though, of contention right now. If they could have won 6 more games up to this point than they actually did win, where would they be? Just think about it. It would just be a very different thing for them. Things I was talking about at the beginning of the season, this is exactly where they make sense now, and I've done my best to state them in mathematical terms. That's why the Giants are just outside contention, and hopefully we can just like see in a clear way here the difference, and I'm just not happy about it. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions and comments. You know where to do it. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.